Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome to our show. We have gathered together from the cosmic reaches of the multiverse, two of the nerdiest geeks to be found. We proudly present the professor and her geeky girlness herself, Ace. And now it's time. Geeky KOOL Presents Professor and Ace. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 48 of Geeky KOOL Presents Professor and Ace.
We're so close to 50.
We are. We're getting very close to 50. So I got to ask you a question about the shirt you're wearing really quick, Ace. The Breakfast Club. Yeah. Is that pre or post Madonna? Because Madonna was a member of the Breakfast Club until she went solo.
It's just it.
It's the actual Breakfast Club movie.
Breakfast Club.
I thought it was the band. Oh, I don't know why I thought that. That makes sense. Now I see it better.
It's in my top 3 movies that I will watch over and over again, and it's Shpoo's favorite movie of all time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is kind of surprising. His favorites always surprise me. Like his favorite song is a surprise. I would never have picked it, and stuff. But no, this is one of my favorite shirts, and I work at home in it a lot. I don't go the office because it's not work appropriate.
Mine's work appropriate, and I do work in it. So I apologize. I just saw Breakfast Club, and I was thinking the band, but of course the movie, the '80s movie, the iconic, probably one of the most known teen drama of all time.
Right. There's me, Allison, the basket case. That's who I kind of, in my head, feel like I relate to the most out of all of them.
Yeah, I was...
A little bit of Brian.
Yeah.
I wish I could be, the rebel. I wish I could be Judd Nelson. But
yeah, I understand. I always wanted to be the bad boy, but I care too much about people, so...
Well, he does. That's the great thing about the Breakfast Club. He does. All of them are very similar in their hearts, but they're just very dissimilar in what they do, and that's what's great. Of course, I'm dating basically Judd Nelson's character, huge heart, and everybody misunderstands him, so that's all works.
Well, there you go.
Yep.
All right, so we want to talk about cartoons today, but before we get started with that, wanted to point out your cool background there, and then we'll talk about mine. So tell us about yours.
So this is in my living room. Sometimes I'm in the studio and you'll see all of Shpoo's like figures and stuff. I don't really buy anything for myself, so I don't have a huge collection, but the Robbie the Robot I bought for myself up here. Everything else you see are gifts except for the gummy bears. I found them all except Sunny at Books A Million a few weeks ago, and I love the gummy bears, so I bought them all, and then Shpoo bought me Sunny. So
that's awesome.
I have Skeletor, Evil Lyn, Orko from He-Man. I have the original Sabrina from the comic books. Rainbow Bright, Sailor Moon. And then they've come out with the My Little Ponies now. And so I have 2 of them. I have Mint here, and I have Cotton Candy, which Shpoo just bought me yesterday.
Aww.
So, but no, I don't collect as much as he does, but I tend to collect things that I really like. Like it has to be something that I actually like, and I don't just he has a huge collection. And I just got these 2. Well, technically, I have 3 shelves because I have my DCs.
Right.
I have my Good Omens, which were like just a thank you, I love you kind of gift from him. Where?
There you are.
My Good Omens. One of my favorite pieces ever that I got was
Bob Ross.
But with Peapod, the squirrel. Because you can find Bob Ross with the raccoon and stuff all over the place. But I'm like, when I watched Bob Ross when I was a kid, it was always about Peapod the squirrel. And he would bring him in and everything. So Shpoo searched and searched and searched and got me Bob Ross with Peapod. So
that's awesome.
So yeah, so I just thought I'd be in here in my little collectible area.
Well, you should. That's awesome.
Especially because we're going to be talking about.
We are going to be talking about.
And then look at you with your new background.
I know. Yeah, this is the new Geeky KOOL studio. Coming to you live here, Geeky KOOL Studio, inside a little bitty room in my house. But still, it's my own area here, and we've got the light and got a new microphone, and
you're all set up.
I know. I kind of went out, and behind me, of course, we've got Batman from Batman '89, which yes. I love that movie. And then this really interesting painting that I just found at a yard sale. I was actually looking for couches and bought a painting instead. But it was just so crazy because every time I saw it, it kept drawing me. I'm like full of emotion. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's killer. And then we've got right here our friend Jared George from, he's a local artist who is amazing. He drew me this Spider-Man because he knew I like Spider-Man, and he actually did on Facebook, my little icon that I use is from him. So he did that for me, and then I've got a cool poster from a Kickstarter that I funded for Miss Meow. And then I got all sorts of other stuff around that you can't see yet, but we'll figure out how to be able to show that off at some point. And I'll get more. But yeah, I'm excited because now I'm actually in my space, and I'm not in Minecraft room. So, yeah.
No, there was nothing wrong with Minecraft.
No, not at all. It just wasn't me.
We're not going to have your son walking behind you, sneaking into his bunk bed and stuff like that.
Right. That's not going to be happening behind us. It's a little higher tech now, which I'm excited for. So, but yeah, so I'm excited for the new digs. I'm actually working on the new digs with my day job, along with having my studio in here. So it's a little cramped, but I'm really loving it because it's all about me. So I get my little space.
Well, and I'm going to tell you, the lighting looks great. Is it just a ring light? Did you just go out and buy a ring light?
I did.
I really want to get one. I'm just poor.
I understand.
And we talked about getting one, but
it will probably get you one yet. We just haven't done it yet. So
just the thing. But yeah. At least you can hear me.
And I can hear you, and I can see you.
I'm yellow tinted because, I have 1970s light fixtures in my living room. So the studio we put when Dakota lived here, in the studio, in his bedroom, which is now the studio, and the studio is now my bedroom. But we actually put these, the white lights, the true natural, pure white lights in the room. So the lighting is so much better in there. But it doesn't show off my collection.
Right.
So
we got to show off your collection. That's important.
Once in a while, not a lot. I mean, I have my Spider-Man back there. I have 2 Spider-Gwens. This one doesn't like to stand up. My Miles Morales, though, I had the coolest. It was a con exclusive. I can't remember what con. Miles Morales, where he was jumping up. My son loves Spider-Man as well. And he especially loves Miles Morales, Spider-Man. And so when he was moving to Florida, he came over and he saw it. And he was like, oh, I wish I could find one, because we can't find them anywhere except on eBay. And they're like $100 and something now. So I just gave it to him.
You're a good mom.
I'm something.
For those that don't know, how old's your son? 25?
26. He'll be 26 this year.
26. Oh my gosh.
I know.
Well,
I'm old.
And AJ had him when she was 2. So.
Yeah, it was just one of those miracle births.
It was a miracle birth. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I was an adult when I had it.
Oh yeah, barely. Whatever. Well, we wanted to talk about Saturday morning and just cartoons in general, because for those that don't understand, and we're going to get into this, in the 80s, cartoons were a way to escape. And most of us didn't have a whole bunch of channels. Cartoons weren't readily available you couldn't stream anything. It was, you would have to tune in and watch either Saturday morning cartoons, or after school there were cartoons.
But only if you got a certain channel. See, and I only got Color 10 and KY3, so NBC and CBS. I didn't get any other channels. Except for like once a month we could turn the antenna, go out and actually turn the antenna just right, and we would pick up Fox when it first started. But that was it. And so our thing was, like you said, we this was before we had a VCR.
Right.
We didn't get a VCR until I was like 8. And so before that, it was the only time you watched shows were when they were on TV and regular TV.
Yes.
All you young people watching, like my stepdaughter and grandchildren, and I'm trying to explain this to them, there was no pausing the TV.
Nope.
There were commercials, and you like on your YouTube, how you have commercials now. There were commercials, and you would have to run to the bathroom during the commercial and come back. And after 6 o'clock, we'd have the 6 o'clock news, and then like a game show like Wheel of Fortune or something like that, Entertainment Tonight kind of things. And then it would be all primetime television for families usually until 9 o'clock. So from 7 to 9 would be family sitcom kind of things. And then 9 o'clock would always be like a drama for the parents. And then 10 o'clock news. So kids didn't have like a huge opportunity to watch fun things. From 3 to 5 sometimes on channels. They would have like afternoon specials and cartoons.
Yeah.
Of course, if you were like me, you didn't get off the school bus until 5:30. So you missed all of those. But then every Saturday morning, you would have Saturday morning cartoons that would start at 6 a.m. and usually end either, depending on the channel, by 11 or 12. And that was the time that your parents let you just binge watch in front of the TV. It was the only time that you got to watch what you wanted to watch, unless you had a sibling like mine who we'd have to fight over every half hour shows we were going to watch. And then the next week we would switch half hours. That way we could catch up. But no, that's how we watched our shows. So
it certainly was. I was in the same boat. I had 2 younger sisters, so sharing the TV to watch, because a lot of them are wanting to watch very different cartoons than I was. And so, it was an experience because you would have to balance all that. You couldn't take a tablet and go watch in your bedroom. Most people didn't have TVs in their bedrooms. I think my parents had a black and white 13-inch. So for those that don't know, TVs used to come in just black and white and not in color at one point. And 13 inches, nobody would even...
Smaller than my computer screen.
You're right. Smaller than some people's phones.
It is. And so there were little portable ones with the
rabbit ears. Yeah.
But you wouldn't get to see all the colors, so you would fight.
You would.
Watching it on, I think we had a 24-inch, which in today's standards is so small. But we had a 24-inch, but it was, a tube television, so it was like heavier than anything.
Super heavy, yeah.
It was like, as thick as it was, the screen was, and it's just this giant box. But it was just so much fun. We didn't have remote control, so you'd have to go up and turn the channel. If you lived out rural areas like me, you'd have to go out and just adjust your antenna just a little bit so that it wasn't staticky.
Right. Yep.
But it was a lot of fun. They had amazing, I think, PBS with like different shows that are very kid driven. They had those as well. I remember in our area we had the Children's Hour.
Yes, I was going to ask you if you remember Children's Hour. Yeah.
Aunt Norma, that was actually filmed up in Springfield, and she would do Looney Tunes cartoons, and she had kids would actually come and get to be in the audience, and one lucky kid got to be the kid of the day. I don't know what she called it, but you would get to choose a key and you would unlock a castle full of prizes, and if you didn't, you still got a prize. But it was just a lot different than it is now.
Yeah. Well, was it like 20 different keys? And so you'd have to pick the right key. I think I remember some of the whole time I watched that. And so, yeah, it was the craziest thing. But yeah, Children's Hour was great. Oh, I
You
don't know
froze
what
up.
just happened there.
Well, I hear your voice, but your
Hmm.
video froze up. New house.
Okay. Okay, we're back. That was
You're back.
weird. Sorry about that, people. I don't know what was going on. That was crazy. So
Just
I'm
a
glad
glitch.
we're back. So, but yeah, Children's Hour was a lot of fun. It was, and I think a lot of areas had that where they would have the
Yes.
specialized shows for kids that would have the adult. My father talks about Romper Room and some other shows like that where you would have that. I remember WGN when I finally got cable at the end of high school. My parents finally moved to town, got cable. WGN had Bozo the Clown and a specialized show like that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And some of them got syndicated and like in nationwide and like got picked up. But there were local like kids shows that you would have a host, and like Aunt Norma was the one I grew up with just because I lived in the Southwest Missouri area my whole life. And so Aunt Norma was the one that I grew up with, but she would tell a story. They had puppets, very much like Mr. Rogers, but with a studio audience there,
Right.
and the kids were on the ground, and then they would go to a screen, and the kids in the studio would get to watch a cartoon while the kids at home watched like the same cartoon, and it was just a lot of fun. But
So every time I sing Happy Birthday, I can't help but be Rusty the Rooster and say, "Light the candles!" Every time. That's just what I do. So
oh, see, that's beautiful. I love that. He was one of the puppets. He was one of the.
he was one of the puppets. I can't remember the other puppet's name. I just remember Rusty the Rooster, and yeah. So yeah. So anyway, yeah, those were the kind of things that were happening back then. But cartoons were one of those things that we found precious, and
Yes.
it really bounded with us. And you were talking about getting up at 6 a.m. The other thing, at least in my house, your parents wanted to sleep in.
Yes.
So you get up, but you can't make a whole lot of noise, so you can't fight with your siblings over what you're going to watch. So you want to be the first one up so you could actually claim the TV to start off with. But you also poured yourself a bowl of sugar cereal,
Yeah.
Fruity Pebbles, I mean, whatever it was.
Lucky Charms.
Lucky Charm. And back then it was made with just pure sugar. And you would just pour it in, pour your milk in that. You sit in front of the TV. The only time you could really sit in front of the TV to eat. You sit in front of the TV and you'd watch cartoons and you'd eat your sugar cereal.
Did you guys have the TV trays? We had the TV trays.
We did have TV trays, but we didn't use them.
Characters. Oh, we had the.
Yeah.
My mom was like,
You had to use them. We had to sit on the floor in case we made a mess.
We sat on the floor. It wasn't like the TV trays that people think of now. It was like the ones that only got this high.
Right.
Legs would fit right underneath.
Yep, I remember those.
I think we had E.T. We had E.T. We had Strawberry Shortcake, which was one of my favorites. And I think eventually we ended up getting the Smurfs and Care Bears because we found them at a yard sale. But
there you go.
The metal and everything. But we would put our cereal bowl there and just start eating. And the thing is you had to wake up earlier than your siblings, like you said. But you had to wake up early enough to claim your spot, plus go get your cereal. Because if you forgot to get your cereal and then your siblings came in, they would change the channel.
Right.
Well,
right.
Your cereal.
You're exactly right. They would.
Luckily, I have a sister, so my brother's 10 years older than us, so he wasn't like into cartoons when we were. So I had a sister, but I did have. I lived with my grandmother, so we always had cousins at the house. So I had two male cousins who lived up the road who would come stay with us when their parents were at work, and they worked on weekends. And then I had a female cousin who's the same age as me, and her little brother would be there. So there would be 3 boys and 3 girls. So that was always fun.
It is, and it's interesting looking at your list of ones you put in, because you have some ones that are considered boy cartoons, but you have a lot of girl cartoons too. And again, cartoons don't have genders; they were just kind of what it was more geared towards, I think.
Yes. Well, like My Little Ponies, which wasn't on my list, was like very much geared to girls. There was Pound Puppies, which didn't make my list as well. That now, if I looked at it, I would be like, it's gender neutral. But back in the day, like the boys would be like, oh, that's a girls' cartoon.
Right.
We want Thundercats, which I loved. Spider-Man, of course. I didn't put any of those on my list just because I had to try to narrow it down a little.
Yeah. You narrowed your list a little more than I did mine, so which is a change. We always have a hard time with these, and we just kind of expand them. So I just wrote down a whole bunch, and I'm like, all right, we'll do whatever ones we want to do here. That'll be fine.
And
but yeah,
mine aren't in any particular order. I will be in the mood for sometimes. And just certain ones that stick with you. The Gummy Bears, I can still sing their whole theme song. I will not because I don't want to you. But I can. And just ones that stick with you and ones that are fun.
Right.
So let's get to our list. What do you
All right, let's get to our list. You want to
picture up? You tell me if it's mine or yours or both. Because do we have any that cross over?
Yeah, we have one that crossed over. We had one, so and that's okay. I mean, in some of them I thought about, but I just didn't put them on my list because my list was extensive. So, so you want to just throw them up randomly here and just talk about them?
You have more than me, so start with you.
Okay, we'll start with mine. Well, in this one is a big one, but it wasn't at the top of my list. But this one was important during the 70s and 80s to a lot of us. The Bugs Bunny Roadrunner Hour.
Right.
So
you gotta love Looney Tunes.
Exactly. So this one would show the old Looney Tune cartoons, and they would put them on Saturday mornings, and they would show this random different ones. And it was always fun because, Bugs Bunny is just great, and you'd have the Roadrunner and the Coyote, and back then they actually showed the Coyote falling and becoming an accordion as the boulder hit his head because...
Never dies.
Never dies, and we knew that wouldn't happen to us because it's a cartoon. We didn't have to have a warning. I don't know.
I think it's just our parents weren't as sensitive as we are as parents.
Yeah, it's true. I'm less sensitive than my wife. I was like, whatever.
You're sensitive. You're more sensitive than I was as a parent. Like, not that I'm not a parent now, but they're grown, so it don't matter.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, it's a thing.
Well, it depends on what it's about, really, for me. So, and also knowing your kid. It's important to know your kid. What can they handle?
Exactly. The Looney Tunes was great because I feel like it was like everybody, boy, girl, rich, poor, no matter where you were, you understood Looney Tunes. There are universal cartoons that just everybody knew what they were. Looney Tunes is in that, and there's a couple more that are a little older that date back before the 80s, even though they were still running during the 80s and stuff.
Right.
I didn't put any of those on my list either, but I like a lot of them.
Well, and I threw that, even though some of the cartoons they would show would go all the way back to the 40s. I'm like, this was a staple all the way through the 80s. I mean, it hit as a staple in the 70s, and it just basically, they're like, what are we going to put in this hour? Well, we're going to put Bugs Bunny and Roadrunner because it draws in a crowd. People love to watch it. So.
What's up, Doc?
Exactly. And it's where I learned.
Who was your favorite character from the Looney Tunes?
My favorite Looney Tune character. Oh boy, that's a great question. Actually, my favorite Looney Tune character, and this is one that Aunt Norma showed all the time, was Foghorn Leghorn. Love Foghorn Leghorn. He just cracks me up.
Boy.
Beats the dog. Boy. Yeah, I say, boy. That's not the way you make a paper airplane. I love that.
Boy. I know that like Southern draw, that like Asian Southern draw. Okay. This is a hard one.
It is.
I loved Porky Pig.
Yeah.
I just thought like at the end, it's just the one that I remember the most, like at the end of Aunt Norma's show, like when he, would come out and that's all, folks.
Exactly. We got a comment from Mandy. Thanks for watching, Mandy. You always are amazing. An older brother, 2 years older, that never got the choice. Oh, wow.
That was
I was
rough.
I was told I had to get the choice, or else I wouldn't. I mean, I'll be honest.
Like I said, my sister and I did not get along very well growing up. We like to this day we don't have really a good relationship. We don't have a relationship at all. But that was the one thing that we did compromise on was Saturday morning cartoons. Like whoever got it first, like got to choose, and then we would rotate because we only got 2 channels, so there was only 2 options.
Right.
You'd be the TV guide. Oh, the TV guide. You'd be at the TV guide to find out what time things were, and you'd be like, okay, so from 7 to 7:30, you could watch either the Smurfs or Spider-Man.
Right.
So you had to decide. Well, I'm always going to pick Spider-Man because he's Spider-Man.
Right.
My sister loved the Smurfs, and so one Saturday we would watch the Smurfs. The next Saturday we would watch Spider-Man.
Right. Well, I remember getting, and people won't get this either that are younger, but we would go by. We didn't have a subscription to the TV Guide, but we would go by the fall special. They would tell you all the new shows. I mean, you would go into detail, and they would have a whole section on Saturday morning cartoons and what the lineup was.
Yes.
And you'd go through, because we got, now, where we lived, we were about an hour from Springfield, but also about 40 minutes from Joplin and Pittsburgh, Kansas. And so we got stations from Joplin, and then Pittsburgh had a station, and then we got Springfield. And talking about turning the antenna, my father had a pair of vice grips that rusted on the antenna, and it was my job to go turn it.
I was the turner. I was the antenna.
Yeah. Well, I remember there being like a foot of snow on the ground.
You had to go outside.
Larry, it's not coming in well. Go out, turn the antenna, keep going. And then we left the door open enough so he could yell, but he wasn't coming outside. It was my job.
So we had to relay because the antenna, we had it next to my grandmother's bedroom, but it was far enough away that our little arms couldn't reach out the window. My dad could reach out the window and turn it.
Oh, yeah.
So if it was raining, which is so dangerous, I just think to myself, thank God I didn't get struck by lightning. But it would be like, I don't want to go out and like turn the antenna. So I would be turning the antenna. My sister would be in my grandmother's room with the window open, and my mom would be in the living room, and you would hear like my mom yell at my sister or my sister yell at me. It's a relay. And go back. Stop. No, go back. And you were just like to watch. So we tended to stick, other than Saturday mornings, if it was Monday night, we would pick one channel to watch so we didn't have to go out every hour.
Yeah. I understand. I did a lot of running out every hour. So.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Well, because you had to watch this show on this station and this show on this station, and Dallas is going to come on, so you got to turn it over to CBS to watch Dallas, and you got to go to.
My dad loved Dallas. It was even when they remade it. They remade it a couple.
Yeah, actually, the remake was pretty decent. I was impressed.
I wish it didn't get canceled because it left it on a cliffhanger, and that's never coming back. Like the .jr.
Right.
I watched all of Dallas, so I knew these things because I was allowed to stay up. So like Moonlighting and Dallas and all of those things, I was allowed to watch them, and none of my friends were.
Oh, well, see, there you go.
Pop up one of mine.
All right. Let's get back to one of yours. All right, let's figure. Click on the wrong thing here. Okay, let's go. Now this one would have a lot of crossover. This would be more considered a boy one, but I was glad it was on your list.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Donatello was my man. I still love him so much. We even watched the movies, the original, with Lex this last week that we have her. We watched all 3 of them. She loves them.
That's awesome.
She knows which turtle is which in their personalities, which is fun.
Right. Well, and you can tell by the color of their mask.
Yes.
Now, originally the comics, they all have the same color mask and have the same weapons and all that, but that's neither here nor there. But
I love the comics, but the comics were not something that I was going to be able to read as a kid.
Right.
They are very violent.
Yeah.
And they're not very kid friendly.
No. Black and white, very, very intense. Yeah.
Yeah. But the cartoon was just that gateway into that ninja like thing. And what's great about it is all the characters are amazingly fun. I did love the all three of the movies that they put out. I didn't like that they changed the actress who played
Right.
oh my god, Casey. Is it Casey? No. April O'Neil.
Yeah, April. Yeah.
The actress who played April when they changed her from 1 to 2 and 3. But you gotta love the turtles. It's California, right. It's pizza, it's craziness, and you related to these characters, even though like turtles, and even though there were boys who were ninjas and all of this stuff, you related to them. Especially, I loved Donatello because he was the smart one, and right. He was always like the one tinkering to find things. Mikey was always the one I think I would like to hang out with the most.
Right.
But each of them had a personality that you could connect to in some way.
That's true.
And it's the only one of the only shows I'll watch that has a mouse or a rat in it.
As the good guy, even. Yeah.
But no, I love the turtles.
Yeah, the turtles are a great one. Now, the interesting thing, you got to be, especially as time went on, a little too kiddie. They kind of dumbed it down a little bit as they went on. And
the newer ones are.
And I was a little older of a teen when it came on, so to me that wasn't as big of a one, just because I was a little bit older than you, and so I didn't hate it. I just was like, yeah, it's just a little too below me. I was a little too much of a high school kid at that point. So even though I still watched other cartoons, I just
I just found them to be fun. I was like. I was a little old. I wasn't like a little kid. Some of the ones on my list are from when I was really young. But this one was it was just too much fun to not put on the list. Plus, I think iconic like 80s cartoons. Wow. And if you don't put Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on that list, I feel like you missed out.
Well, I was glad to see it on the list because I'm like,
it's so 80s, like the original.
It is so 80s.
And the animation I don't like, but I don't like hardly any of the remakes. It's terrible.
Right? No.
Ponies. Oh, the equestrian girls. Why did you turn ponies into girls? I don't get it. Have you seen the equestrian girls? My little ponies?
No, I haven't. No.
They've turned the ponies. Somehow the ponies go through this portal and now they're human. And they're human, kind of.
That's just weird.
Thank you. But it's the thing, it keeps their personality, but it makes them not talking ponies. But I love the talking ponies. And I love, so I love the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cartoon. And I like the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies.
See, there you go. Well, and if you've not seen those 90s movies, you guys should check them out because they're a lot of fun. Now, they're you can tell the prosthetics being used and some of the special effects aren't as good, but they're a lot of fun. They're worth checking out.
It's so weird because 1 and 2, Jim Henson did the all of those for them. In number 3, he didn't. The Jim Henson Company did not do it. And you can tell the difference.
You can.
It still looks good, but it's not nearly as good as the Jim Henson ones. And it's just a lot of fun. Like Splinter's a little creepy in number 3. His hands look a little odd and everything. But it's just, you got to watch number 3 too. Corey Feldman played Donatello in 1 and 3.
I didn't realize that. Oh, wow.
It didn't even dawn on me until we were watching it, and I was like, that's Corey Feldman's voice, I swear.
One of the Coreys. Something very 80s there, the Coreys.
The Coreys.
Yeah.
Every teen beat and Tiger beat and teen, I don't know. All the teen magazines had the Coreys on it, like every week.
Yeah, they did, yeah.
I had all of them.
Well, let's talk about one because we both like superheroes. The cartoon that really kind of launched superheroes on Saturday mornings being the Super
Super
Friends.
Friends.
And this is another one that went from the 70s through the 80s, through the end of the 80s, and kind of evolved as it went. And I loved this version where you had the Legion of Doom. I just found that to be fun. Now, when I look back on them, I'm like, man, all those people are stupid. The Legion of Doom, they could have taken over the world so easily. They come up with the stupidest ideas. Like, why would you do that? The really interesting thing about Super Friends, especially because of when it originally was created in the early 70s, the heroes were not allowed to hit anybody.
No.
That's why you have Superman punching boulders and throwing things. You've got Wonder Woman always using her lasso. Batman and Robin use their batarangs.
Yeah, they couldn't have physical contact, and
Couldn't have
they
physical
couldn't actually
contact.
hurt anyone.
Right.
Detain them.
Right. Which is interesting because nowadays we'll see the blood spurting and everything else and have it as a kid's show. And now, back then you couldn't even hit anybody. So that's the really interesting thing. But yeah.
Which was weird because so many cartoons. It was weird because so many cartoons had violence.
Right.
What you call violence. Like Looney Tunes had violence. The Flintstones, which I love, and the Jetsons. The Jetsons not so much, but the Flintstones had a lot of physical comedy.
It did.
Parts of theirs, and those are not on my list, but I did watch them as a kid. I love the Jetsons. I still can do that whole song too, but but then you had superheroes who in the comic books actually use force,
right?
But they weren't allowed to. And I actually think, and this is my thought process and why I think that happened, was because you have the past and you have the future with the Jetsons and the Flintstones, and then you have animals.
Right.
The mutations are all animals who are hurting other animals. And I think that moment with Super Friends and the whole idea that these are humans hurting other humans was like frowned upon. And I think that's the distinction at that time.
Right.
But it's a weird distinction because you could go from watching Super Friends where they don't touch anyone to watching Looney Tunes where, like
Daffy's duck's beak gets blown off and spun around with
other, and it's like,
you're despicable. Yep.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I thought that one. I'm like, okay, that's one that was, especially since it came on when I was a little bitty kid. That became one of my go-tos that I had to get up and watch. And as a kid, I would have to make sure when Super Friends was going to be on. Right. Now I will say, I prefer the original sidekicks being Marvin and Wendy and Superdog or Wonder Dog to the Wonder Twins. I really never cared for the Wonder Twins that much. I always thought, I'm like, bring back Marvin and Wendy. Come on.
You're like, bring them back. It's so amazing what nostalgia will do to us.
Oh, yeah.
Like, nostalgia wipes away a lot of blemishes in TV shows and movies that when your child sees it or a younger person sees it, they're like, this is the lamest thing ever. But in your head, yes, it's lame, and you can see that. You can see that it's not great quality, but because it has such a strong place in your childhood and your life,
right,
that it literally makes you take up for it. It makes you say, but at the time, it was amazing.
I agree. It was amazing.
It was. I love Super Friends, so.
That Super Friends is great.
I figured it would be on your list. And
it kind of had to be, So let's talk about something on your list here. Let's go with Bears the Care.
The Care Bears. And I love that you put a picture with the Care Bear cousins on there.
Yes.
Because they were my favorite part of the Care Bears when they introduced the Care Bear cousins. Not that I don't love the Care Bears, but I love the idea that there were not just bears out there. There were, rabbits and raccoons.
Right.
The Care Bears were such a lesson to children, when, especially the movies, but
right.
cartoon, which lasted, I think, 4 seasons. Don't quote me on that, but I think I remember it being 4 seasons long. Was such, every week showed a lesson on how to care for each other, even though you were different, and how somebody being sad, what you could do to reach out to them. And it really taught empathy.
Yes.
Which is something that I don't think a lot of entertainment stuff teaches anymore.
I don't think a lot of it knows how to, because people are empathetic typically anymore.
Right. But the Care Bears were amazing. I had the Care Bear cousins. I had stuffed animals. When we grew up, my sister got all the stuffed animals.
Oh.
Any of my stuffed animals. I don't have my Alf or my favorite, my pet monster, any of those. My sister took all of them. I think she still probably has them just because of how attached she was to them. But I had like all the Care Bears and Care Bear cousins and everything. I would love to find the originals in good condition again.
Yes, yes.
But it was just a good, wholesome cartoon. And there was no, your parents would be like, what are you watching? And you'd say Care Bears, and they would just walk away. They don't, like, it was nothing that they had to worry about whatsoever. And yes, it was more geared toward girls because they're pretty colors and they had rainbows on them and hearts. But, you know, my favorite Care Bears were not the super girly or super happy ones. I loved Bedtime Bear. I love Grumpy Bear. Grumpy Bear is my absolute favorite. And just because you're grumpy doesn't mean you don't care.
Right.
So, no, I love them. And so much of it when we got, I can't remember which streaming site it's on, but when we got the streaming site that they're on, I watched the first movie. That's like last year. I watched the first movie again.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Most definitely. Yeah.
It was bad, but it's good.
I understand. Well, you know, and you know, my sisters, when you know, because we talked about, neither one of us had a VCR growing up, and so every once in a while, and I think you had the same experience. Every once in a while, my parents would go to the video store, rent a VCR.
Yes.
And then rent like 3 or 4 tapes, because that way it made it worth your while to rent. You'd have like a whole weekend of watching movies, which you couldn't do otherwise. Yep. And so my you know, my sisters would get the Care Bear movies, the Strawberry Shortcake movies.
Strawberry Shortcake.
Yeah. So I remember sitting and watching. I'd watch it with them and be like, but it wasn't horrible. I mean, it was fun.
It wasn't bad. I mean, it was one that Dakota watched. I had Dakota watch it when he was a kid, and he really enjoyed the cousins. He didn't enjoy the Care Bears as much, and I think the cousins were a way for them to, like, you had lots of heart, I think, which was the lion, or Braveheart, which is the lion, and you had the rabbit and the raccoon and the monkey, and so a way to incorporate more boy-like
right
into it. So
even though teddy bears should be kind of, you know,
unisex.
It should be. I mean, Winnie the Pooh. I mean, crud. I still have my Winnie the Pooh from when I was a baby.
Aww.
I love Winnie the Pooh. So yeah.
I love Eeyore.
I can see that. So Winnie the Pooh is like my favorite, but the one I relate to the most is Tigger, because that was me as a kid. Yeah, my ADD, I was so Tigger. I mean, woo, all over. I can do the whole Tigger song. I mean, I got it memorized, so I can.
The thing about Tiggers, Tiggers are wonderful things.
The top's made of rubber, the bottom's made out of springs. Bouncy, prancy, flancy, fancy, fun, 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 fun. People are watching us going, what the? Stop singing!
I know the whole Winnie the Pooh song.
I do too. So we got a couple of comments from Andy. So let's
probably the only one watching our crazy.
No, we've got a couple people. So
yes,
the newer CG cartoon. Yeah. I
have, and I dislike it. Here's the thing I have. And the reason we're doing this is because Kevin Smith is remaking He-Man, and the pictures look beautiful. and they look very much like He-Man, but in a remastered way and a modern twist. They remade a lot of my favorite cartoons. Care Bears, Strawberry Shortcake got a whole new look. And
3 or 4 times Strawberry Shortcake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My Little Ponies, like I said. And and the Ninja Turtles. I'm not a huge fan of the CGI animation in general. I like hand-drawn animation. And if you do the CGI, I don't like the boxiness of the look. I don't want my cartoons to look so 3D. I like that they were flat.
Right.
I know that sounds weird, and I know a lot of people are like, oh, that's terrible. My favorite things were growing up. I think I was like 6 when I realized I watched a show, and I think it was on PBS, that all cartoons were made of drawings.
Right.
Each time a character moved, you had to do another drawing of that character, just a little different. And so it would take months, years sometimes to get these cartoons made, to create these characters. And the artist in me was fully alive back when I was a little kid as well. And I just was so impressed with the fact that they had to hand draw these things. And so, you know, when you watch something like The Little Mermaid from Disney, which is hand drawn, and then you watch something newer from Disney, which is when they combine with Pixar and it's got some CG computer animation and stuff. It's not that that's bad. It's just that it's different. And in my head, I don't enjoy it as much. So I don't enjoy the new Care Bears as much. One, I think that I will watch the old Care Bears because of nostalgia, not because it's necessarily good. And since I don't have little kids, like I have a stepdaughter who's going to be 10 this year, but I don't have like little kids anymore. I don't think that's not something that I'm around as much. And so I haven't learned to appreciate it, I guess.
That's a good answer. So, yeah.
Very political answer.
Very political, yeah. Mandy also said she identifies with the elephant. Tons of fun.
Oh my God, it was so cute. Like mine is the raccoon. I loved the raccoon, the one with the little light bulb. Can't think of his name. Mandy probably knows it. But like I can't think of his name. But he was my favorite. And then the rabbit, Swiftheart Rabbit, was so much fun because he was just so fast.
Right.
But yeah.
Nope. That's good.
So what's next on your list, Professor?
All right. Well, we're gonna So we're gonna go with we did a DC one with Super Friends. Let's do a Marvel one here, but not what you're thinking. This one actually is the Incredible Hulk.
Oh.
So interestingly, because I watched the live action television show in the 70s.
Yes.
Enjoyed that. But then when I saw this, I actually got to see what the characters were really like. So it actually shows you, the special effects and everything else, some of the graphics aren't as great, but it really does go into the story of the Incredible Hulk, who Bruce Banner is, why he's the way he is.
And they used his real name.
They did, rather than David.
Which, I don't know if everybody knows this, but the Incredible Hulk TV show, he wasn't Bruce Banner on that show.
All right.
And the reason why is, and this would never fly today, but when they came to the TV executives to make that TV show, the one issue they had was they thought that the name Bruce sounded too gay.
Right. That's the craziest thing ever. I do not
know how a name sounds gay, but okay. So they changed his name.
They did.
But in the cartoon, he went back to being Bruce Banner, which I love.
They left him at his original name because they weren't trying to please the 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock people watching television.
All about the kids.
Right, yeah.
Who cares if the kids
The
kids won't understand gay anyway, so we don't need to worry about.
I don't care if he sounds gay. Like, we don't even know what that means. Like, it's
Right, exactly. It means happy, right? Have a gay old time, right?
Right, exactly. Oh my goodness.
So no, I'm with you. But I really liked that cartoon. It actually kind of got me into the Hulk, where I wasn't before. So that I thought that was a fun cartoon. Professor Holt.
This is my favorite scene from it, like the Avengers, any of them actually, is when Ant-Man is sitting down and Scott's taco blows away and Professor Hulk hands him. That's my favorite scene.
That is a great scene.
Because I love both the actors, love them, and they play two of my favorite Marvel characters other than Spider-Man.
Right.
So yes, love this. But no, Hulk he's amazing. He's an amazing character.
He's incredible.
His arc throughout his comic books has just been so cool, you know. And who doesn't kind of, I don't know, relate to getting so angry,
right,
and feel like you're a different person.
Right.
I think everyone has had moments in their life where they're so angry that, like my mom used to say, you're seeing red. That you just don't. And that was what the Hulk represented, was like this uncontrollable anger, but learning to control it. So it actually taught kids lessons too, that you can learn to control it.
And that doesn't make somebody a bad person if they're not in control of it. So yeah, no, I'm with. Well, and you know, my 12-year-old son is going through the raging right now, so gets angry very quickly. So I'm like, okay, hopefully he'll learn to control that, like Professor Holt. So that'd be great. So.
Yes, get him into Professor Holt.
So, here you go. Mandy's come to your rescue here. Brightheart.
Brightheart. Ah, I loved Brightheart. Thank you. And she Googled it. I can't Google things because my phone is what I'm using to film. So.
Yeah, well, and sitting here Googling is not usually great entertainment for people. I don't know. Maybe. So, all right, let's go with one of yours here. Da-da. All right. So, we talked about Strawberry Shortcake. Let's throw it up there.
So, you picked the new version.
I did pick a newer version because I was having a hard time finding the classic.
So, I love Strawberry Shortcake. And there you see Huckleberry and you see Apple Pie. Those are or Apple Dumpling. That's her little sister. Yep. I do not like. I understand why they did it, to modernize the clothes and everything. She's still the same personality and all of that. They just modernized the look, but I didn't feel like it was necessary.
Right.
She's a little girl who lives in a world where everything smells and everybody's based on fruit.
Right. Lives in the side of a strawberry. So
lives in the side of a strawberry. So, but I think probably the first thing I ever bought with my own money, other than comic books, I went to a book fair in kindergarten. And they had Strawberry Shortcake little figures. And I bought them all. And I came home and my mom was so upset because I didn't buy any books. Which she was shocked by.
Right.
Because it's me. But then, I saved my money for like a year and a half and bought all the Loris Ingalls Wilder's books and that I could. Like, I was in first grade and it cost me like $130 and I had saved my money for a year and a half to buy them.
Wow.
I love books. But
I know you do.
Strawberry Shortcake was just so much fun. She was an escape. You had great villain in the Pie Man. With his little lankiness and
his mustache, the big long mustache. I was looking for that, and I was having a hard time finding it. So
much fun. Some of my favorite characters are the villains, and even in these old things, old cartoons, I love the villains. So yeah, no, he makes it, and then just the characters, and I loved getting the dolls from the characters, like when you got the dolls, because they actually smelled like strawberries,
Right.
smelled like lemons, and they all had their scent. They were all scented, which I thought was really cool.
I agree.
But
My sister still has hers. My baby sister, who was born in 1977. So, that makes her, 25 now or something. Anyway, but
she's a year younger than me.
Right. So she had all of this, and that was what she would get. She would get her strawberry shortcake dolls for birthday, Christmas, and I always loved the smell of them.
They were amazing.
Yeah.
It came out in, like, I want to say 82, so I would have been either in kindergarten or first grade. And that is just something that you remember, that first cartoon that you feel is your cartoon.
Right.
Strawberry Shortcake was like my cartoon, so much so that my mom literally, like, one of my favorite foods was strawberry shortcake, which was just a thing. But my mom, I think that was one of the first birthdays. I always had to celebrate my birthday with my sister because she is born a year and 4 hours after me.
Wow.
Different days. I was born at 11:30 at night, and she was born at like 3 o'clock in the morning. Mine's December 9th, hers is December 10th. But so the only birthday I had alone was my first one, and my mom went into labor during it, so it doesn't count. Which I blamed her for the rest of my life. But I remember we had 2 birthday parties when we were kids that, though they were the same, the cake was made as a dual cake. And my sister was very tomboyish, and I was not. I was a very girly girl up until I was like 7. And so we had Raggedy Ann and Raggedy Andy. And then we had Strawberry Shortcake and Huckleberry Pie.
Oh, nice.
So the little separate, like, we had different flavors on each side because my sister liked chocolate and I liked vanilla and all of that. But
right. Good. Yeah, that's awesome.
You guys learn about me watching these videos.
They're lucky to get to know you that well. So there you go.
So what one's yours next?
Oh, let me go. Okay, so I'm going to pull one in, and this one actually I discovered as a late teen after we moved to town, and my parents actually splurged for cable, even though, a lot of times the water bill wouldn't get paid or whatever. Anyway, so this one was an 80s cartoon that was British, and because I got Nickelodeon, I got to experience Danger Mouse. Love Danger Mouse.
Oh my gosh. Danger Mouse is hilarious.
Yeah.
I didn't watch Danger Mouse until, I want to say, after high school, because I have cable, and then I found it somewhere. I think a movie store was going out of business, and I bought some. So I found it. But no, that was amazing, because it's like, I almost put Inspector Gadget on my list.
Yes.
Because that was like, thing. But Danger Mouse was very much like James Bond and
it
Mouse.
Yes.
And, like, he's got the cool eye patch and just suave and weirdly suave for a mouse. And and he's not wearing any clothes, but he has an eye patch. I'm just saying.
Well, he's got his belt.
He's got a belt.
And there's an emblem up here for Danger Mouse, so you got to think that's a white outfit, right? Maybe?
But I
don't
know. It always looks funny. Like, it looks like he's naked.
Well, and the Toad guy was the villain, and his sidekick over here. I love this sidekick. I never remember his name, but Danger Mouse was so much fun. Especially when I first discovered it, I would just watch it and laugh and like, oh my gosh, this is great. So.
Oh, is that your first taste of, like, British humor?
No, it wasn't, but it was my first animated British humor. Okay. So, I mean, I discovered Monty Python and some other British humor, but not a lot. But yeah, that got me kind of into a lot of the British humor with Danger Mouse. So, yeah.
Love that. That's
amazing. All right, let's see what we've got here for you. Let's go a more boyish one that you had picked. Oh. And then we can do his sister afterwards. Go with He-Man. Masters of the Universe.
So I love He-Man, not for He-Man. I think Prince Adam was just not the greatest character.
Right.
Hate on me for this. I think his side characters are so much better than he is. I think his villains are so much better than he is. But you have to have that one character who brings them all together.
Right.
So He-Man, I loved Skeletor. I loved Evil Lyn, and I loved Orko. I loved the Sorceress as well. But it was just one of those cartoons that drew you into this fantasy world, and not a fantasy world about like talking animals or anything, but with magic and danger and like these creatures, and like it's such a good bad cartoon from the 80s.
Well, this was, kind of at the peak of the sword and sorcery and Conan the Barbarian times. So you've got this character, and actually, interestingly, first introduced in a DC comic book where he teamed up with Superman, where Superman broke through. So so it's kind of an interesting thing. But yeah, it's now my one of my younger cousins, who was about 4 years younger, loved He-Man, and so we would watch it. It was one of the I would go to my grandfather's house after school because my parents would work half an hour away, and so we would go there, and my cousins would go there, and we didn't get very with my cousins most of the time, but my cousin was my cousin Leslie was really into He-Man, so I'd watch it with him, and it was fun. It was like, again, felt like it's a little below where I was at that point, but there you go.
I mean, Skeletor, like, think about it. He's just one of the best bad guys. And Panther, and then, so, Shmoo got me that, and then Evil Lyn. Which, she's new in my collection. It was hard for us to find her. And then my favorite of the good guys,
Orko. Orko always drove me crazy.
Funny.
I was like, oh my gosh. So can you guess, I'll throw his picture back up, can you guess which character was my favorite?
Man of Arms.
Nope.
Really?
Nope. Like Man of Arms, but he wasn't my favorite.
So who was your favorite?
What was her name, the other female?
Teela?
What?
Teela?
Yes. Well, and again, what color hair is she?
That's the ginger. Professor, you and your ginger.
This goes back, and I was thinking about this. This goes back to Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Because who was my favorite character? Of course, it was Daphne, right? I love Scooby-Doo and Shaggy, but Daphne was my favorite. And I'm always like, why does she always get caught in these traps? I mean, she's awesome. Velma was really cool and smart. I love Velma, but Daphne was the redhead. So and this like when I'm like 3. So I don't know I can help this. So
you just have a proficiency.
I do. So, but yeah, I just thought you'd find that funny that my favorite He-Man character, of course, is the redheaded girl. So of course, that's what it has to be. So I'm kind of like Charlie Brown. I like the redheaded girl. So what can I say?
Little redheaded girl. Back me up.
We got a couple of comments. Let's throw them up here. Mandy says, Danger Mouse sidekick was Pinful. Thank you, Mandy. The youngest loves this. I love Danger Mouse. It's so much fun. And I love He-Man and She-Ra. There you go.
She-Ra's on my list too. So
yes, we will go with She-Ra next on AJ's list, but let's go with one of mine. Which one do I want to go with? Okay, so we mentioned this one earlier. We're going to throw it up here. Thundercats! Oh! Yeah. That was
like He-Man with animals.
It kind of was, but I don't.
Look, if you look at it, it's like you could have like put a little bit more clothes on Prince Adam.
Yeah.
And an animal head, and then you'd have Thundercats. But it was so much fun.
And again, you go back to talk about the bad guys. the bad guy, Mamra, I think was his name. Mamra, yeah. Such a cool bad guy because he's a mummy with magical powers trying to take over Third Earth. Whatever. I mean, like.
I love that they made it not on Earth.
Right.
I just love when they do that because it brings out children's imaginations to the point of no return.
Yes.
Makes you think there are other worlds and there are other things we don't see and all of that. I want my cartoons and I want my, especially fantasy cartoons, to do that to me. One of my least favorite things about the He-Man movie that came out like in the 90s with Courtney Cox was they brought He-Man
to Earth.
Right.
No, they had no reason to do that.
Why? Just because you can?
Well, that was the same thing with Beastmaster. Why did you bring him? The second one. Yeah. Right. The first one was awesome. The second one you ruined it because you were on Earth.
Although he did have a redhead with that one.
Okay, you're right there.
The first one too. Beastmaster has a thing for redheads too.
It's a thing. What can you say?
Oh my God.
So let's talk a little bit about He-Man's sister, She-Ra.
She-Ra. So this was just basically it's amazing how She-Ra came about because they saw the success of He-Man, but it was for boys.
Right.
And it wasn't about giving women empowerment. It was literally about how can we expand this universe to get more money.
Right.
So
because honestly, all these cartoons were about two things. Well, one of them was to sell toys. That was the big thing.
A lot of the cartoons came out because of the toys.
Right. You're trying to sell the toys. So you're putting out a toy line and trying to sell it, so you put a cartoon. The other thing you did was you sold advertising to things like cereal companies, other toy companies, anything that would get kids' attention.
Because, as we've said before, Saturday mornings your butt was in front of that TV and you did not move unless you absolutely had to go to the bathroom, and it was a commercial break, and you would run to the bathroom. So that was prime. Like time for advertisers and companies to feed children the toys that they thought that they would want. Mm-hmm. And it was the 80s, so it was like a economic boom. People were buying all kinds of stuff. And so a lot of these cartoons that we love would not have been around if it wasn't for merchandising and it wasn't for advertising.
Right.
If it wasn't for we need to find something, okay, we have all these boy type like cars, Hot Wheels, or whatever it was. We have all these toys that want to advertise with us, but we only have girl type cartoons. We need to find boy type cartoons.
Right.
They do. And She-Ra is the prime example of that. They saw a huge success with He-Man, and they never once during the first part of He-Man discussed that he has a twin sister.
Right.
It's not something that's even discussed.
Well, it's because he didn't know, because she was whisked away.
I know, but it's because she didn't exist until they figured out that girls were watching He-Man too.
Right.
But we were watching He-Man not as much because we didn't relate to all the characters. And so they were like, well, let's make a She-Ra. Let's make a superhero that's like He-Man, but a girl version, who's a little like the sorceress, and and all of that. And almost all of her sidekicks or the side characters were almost all female.
Well, in fact, Mandy actually has a comment about that. So, right on, Mandy. Yep.
And that was one because they figured that, yes, action figures sold, but Barbie dolls sold for more than action figures did.
Right.
So if you created an all-female cast, if you will, of characters for an action-based cartoon, you can team up She-Ra with He-Man. You can mix and match so brothers and sisters could play together. But also you could make them fashion dolls.
Right.
And it was seriously about the merchandising. But it didn't affect the way that I loved She-Ra.
Right.
I thought if She-Ra and He-Man were to get into a fight, I think She-Ra would kick his butt. Because especially if they weren't like in their power mode, because Prince Adam was just a weakling in senses. But it was just a beautiful thing. And it was one of the first times that you had a female lead action cartoon.
Right.
That the whole cartoon was based on, not just like a female who was like in one episode as the lead. Like Super Friends, they had several times that some of the girls were in the forefront, but they always were backed up by the guys and stuff. And this was girls backed up with girls, and it was pretty epic. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I actually like She-Ra more than I liked He-Man, to be honest with you. So
because it was, I think that it was written to make the girls seem more powerful.
Right.
And He-Man, they really wanted to try to put that Clark Kent super alter ego thing to the forefront, and it didn't quite fit for He-Man. I think if he would have had more of the He-Man personality when he was Prince Adam, I think that it would have translated more like She-Ra did, because she had kind of the same personality, whether she was holding the sword or not. Right.
Well, he was trying to pretend not to be, and I don't even know why. If you're Prince, who are you worried about? I never quite got that.
Not like people around him didn't know.
Right. Maybe his parents didn't. I don't know. Maybe he hadn't come out about being He-Man.
Come out about several things.
Could be. All right, so the next one, I'm going to go with my other Marvel cartoon, and this one we have talked about, Spider-Man and his amazing friends.
I knew this one was going to be on your list.
Yeah.
So I did not even put it on my list, because I was like, okay. But it's Spider-Man. Like, there's nothing more that needs to be said.
Right. Well, and then you've got Iceman, who's a great character to go along with them, and they kind of play off each other. And then you've got Firestar, who this is where she was introduced at, and then because she was popular, she actually went to the comics and became her own character, became a part of the New Warriors, along with Hellions and many other things, and eventually an Avenger.
Yes, it's just such a great, like, everyone who knows this knows that you can't talk about superheroes without talking about Spider-Man with us, because both of us love Spider-Man. Yep. But it was such a great version of Spider-Man.
Right.
Like, there's so many versions of all of these comic book characters, especially when you're talking about stuff. But this was such a great version of Spider-Man.
I agree.
He was funny, and he was quirky, and he was awkward, and he was, odd and smart, and but self-doubting, and all of that came through the cartoon, which is really
right. Right. I agree. And it showed some of the cool villains and did a lot of really. Now, I've gone back and watched some of the episodes because they're on Disney Plus, and I've gone, oh wow, but it's still nostalgic, and I still love it anyway. I'm like, boy,
it's a nostalgic thing. You remember them, and sometimes you go back and watch things. You're like, I remember every time I start a thing that I used to watch, I'm like, please let me like it as much as I did.
Right. Well, I try just to like it anyway. I'm like, and if I look at it and go, that's cheesy, I'm like, I don't mind cheesy.
But it was cheesy because it was for children.
Right. And no, exactly.
I find that cartoons now are trying to make children older than they are.
Right.
Like, not all of them, but I feel like they don't let kids just be the cheesy, goofy
Right.
kids they are. And cartoons in the 70s, 80s, and even part of the early 90s let kids do that. They were
Right.
just, okay, you're a kid.
Well, and sometimes you would throw things in only the adults would get it. I mean, Looney Tunes was notorious for that. You go back and rewatch, you're like, that's funny for a whole different set of reasons,
Yep.
but you played it to the kids. And so, yeah. So, yeah, I'm with you. But yes, so I had to do some Spider-Man.
Of course.
Spider-Man is amazing for us. And again, Firestar's a redhead.
It's all about the redhead.
It's all about the redheads. I don't know. What can I say?
You crack me up.
Oh, so let's talk about one that we've not mentioned here for you. This is interesting because you mentioned the Smurfs, but
I have not mentioned this one.
You've not mentioned the Snorks.
Okay, which are like the Smurfs but underwater and so much better. What can I say? They're amazing. If you guys haven't seen the Snorks, it really is very similar in the aspect of the Smurfs. They live in like a village under the water, that sort of thing. But they were so snarky. If you go back and watch it, they're like very snarky. But they're just it. Shmoo and I have talked about this, and he's not a huge Smurfs fan, but he loves the Snorks. And I feel like the Snorks was the answer for, like, what can we do to make the Smurfs more boy-friendly?
Right.
Which is weird,
right.
because in the Smurfs, there's literally one girl.
Right.
Well, until they get the new ones, and then there's two girls. When they have the younger girls, the younger ones.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
And they have, like, the little red head with the braids. But
that didn't do anything for me.
she was blue. It did. But it's just the Snorks. I feel like was how can we reach more boys in this kind of genre of cartoons, but I really loved it. But I really love like the old Aquaman.
Yeah.
The Snorks had that like feel like they could be part of that Aquaman universe.
Right.
Without like
also that they leave because Aquaman has summoned them with his telepathy to.
Just like. But no, the Snorks were so much fun, and they like played music out of their little snort. Oh.
Now, and again, I'm a little older, and my sisters always wanted to watch the Smurfs. I mean, that was always, and it was on for like, I don't know, it felt like it was on for like 3-hour period or something. It seemed to be on forever. And so I was like, oh my gosh. So if they would get the color television, and ours was, by the way, our big TV was 19 inches. That was huge. Not as huge as your 24. You must have been one of those rich families that had a 24-inch. But
no. My aunt bought a new one, and we got her old.
See, there you go. But that was the thing, was to watch it on the big color TV was a big deal, and they would get on the Smurfs. It seemed like it went forever. And I'm sure it was just an hour or something. But so then they're like, oh, this is from the creators of the Smurfs, come the Snorks. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm out. I don't think I ever watched an episode.
Do you want to hear something? The Smurfs were actually a 30-minute cartoon, but they always did feel like an hour. It always felt like
and then they added in other fluff stuff. And interestingly, with the Smurfs, it was a cartoon from Holland. I mean, that was the weird thing. And you kind of can see that when you look back, like, okay, some of that makes sense. And
it has some very like Holland European like
it does
mythology thrown into it.
Yeah.
The Snorks I love the Snorks though, so I like the Snorks more than the Smurfs. But my sister was all about the Smurfs. Right,
and I was so anti-Smurfs that I never gave the Snorks a chance. So I'm sorry, Snorks.
You should go back if you can find it and watch it, because you would think it was hilarious.
I probably would. I probably just didn't give it a chance because I was going through puberty and I didn't really care. I only wanted to watch what I wanted to watch.
Girl things.
Well, now I like girls.
I'm more interested in watching the girls.
That might be it. I did like watching the girls, so I don't know. Well, again, my little Miss Meow over there with her little. Anyway, And by the way, fully clothed in this poster. This is not a bikini thing, so I'm not one of them. I'm not displaying one of those.
I have the bikini girls from DC on my wall, so there's that.
Oh, there you go. And I don't have any problem with that. I'm just pointing out that even though I'm saying I really like the girls, the one I've got up as a poster is fully clothed. So
you're very appropriate.
I'm trying to be. So anyway, neither here nor there. It doesn't matter.
What's next on your list?
Okay, so this one was on after school, at least for me. And, I did want to ask you a question though. So you talked about you only got the 2 channels.
Yes.
Was ABC and CBS? Was Schoolhouse Rock was on ABC, wasn't it?
Yep, I didn't get Schoolhouse.
Oh, see, that's so. So for those of us that got ABC, that was we would change the station at the end of a show to catch the Schoolhouse Rock, and then you would run to the bathroom
because it was like a commercial.
Right.
And they have them on one of the streaming sites because we've used it for school for less. But yes, they're like little short. They're between 2 and 5 minutes at the most.
And all of them were sung. Now they were created in the 70s, but they ran them through a good portion of the 80s. But yeah, Schoolhouse Rock was always my favorite, and I'd always be like, oh, it's this one. But if it was Conjunction Junction or Lolly Lolly Lolly, get your adverbs here, or the adjective one, a lot of those I love. There's some of them that I was like, like the number ones I was like usually, those are okay. But I would, I love the shot heard around the world, which is about the American Revolution.
Yes.
That one always, I could sing along with it, but yeah. So anytime, like if somebody started going Conjunction Junction, I'd instantly join in with them singing.
So
Did you have a heart attack there? Fall down? I don't know.
So no, here's what happened: is my phone is almost dead.
Oh no!
So I had to move over to where my charger is.
Oh, that's important. You're muted again, AJ. There you go. All right.
So I had to move over to where my charger is, and then my phone decided to fall off the stand. So.
Of course it did, because that's what it does. So anyway, so this one was an after-school one.
Okay.
At least for us, and this was one that I loved watching. Also, a Marvel comic book that was really good. Talking about G.I. Joe, great American hero.
G.I. Joe was on ABC because I never got to watch it as a kid. Ever. But my cousins, here's the fun part, is like we lived down in the valley. My cousins lived like a half a mile from us, up this giant hill, and so they got ABC. So, they would go home because these are my 2 boy cousins that lived up the road from me. So when G.I. Joe was coming on, even though their parents were at work, they would ask my grandmother if they could walk up the road to watch G.I. Joe at their house and then walk back down to the house. Right. And people are like, it's a half a mile. And I'm like, but it was the 80s, and we lived on a dirt road where everybody knew us. Right. My family had been in that property where I lived with my grandmother for 300 years. And they lived on property that my great aunt owned. So it was actually part of that 300-year property. It just was divided by a different person. Or my great uncle owned it. But so there was only between our house and their house, there was one house in the middle. And so we were on a party line. And every Saturday they would know that my cousins were going to walk up and then walk back down. And the people at the party, at the house in between, would call us on our phone to let us know that our cousins passed the house. And then let us know, we knew to expect them to be passing the house 45 minutes later to walk down home. Because we couldn't miss G.I. Joe, and we didn't get G.I. Joe at Grandma's house. Yeah,
G.I. Joe was truly a boy one. It basically, a special unit of the army going against a special bad guy unit called Cobra. And now, yes, the redhead's my favorite, Scarlet. It's telling. I don't know.
Did I tell you I'm thinking about dyeing my hair red again?
You should. That's always my answer.
I'm like,
You gonna go red? All right.
I cut it the other day, just cut the dead ends off, and I was gonna go rose gold, but it's such a big upkeep, and the blonde, the roots are such a big upkeep. So I don't know. I'm naturally like that dark red color,
Right.
like so. Who knows? Maybe in a few weeks you'll come on here and I'll be a redhead.
If it wasn't for your job, you would change hair colors every week. So you'd be, yeah. And I'd be okay with that. That wouldn't be a problem.
I would be green. I would have colors. My job doesn't have like an actual rule against it, but because I'm trying to be a professional journalist.
Yeah.
Something that I think if I showed up in a conservative town that I live in with like blue-green hair, they might not take me as serious.
Not go over as well.
This already gets the looks, like the shaved side.
Which cracks me up. I mean, I understand that Branson's a conservative town. Springfield's fairly conservative too. I mean, overall. But
Branson's way more.
I know that. I'm like, what in the world?
It's hair. It grows back.
It is hair. Exactly. All right, so let's go with another one of yours here. Another girly girl one that I remember my sister was renting. Rainbow Bright.
Rainbow Bright and the Star Kids. Okay,
yeah.
So Shy Violet's the one hiding in the back, and she is my favorite.
Yep. Of course she was, because you love the Shy Girls because you're related.
I did. I love Rainbow Bright and the little sprites, like the little. She also had the funniest villains that were just trying to drain the color and make it a black and white world. And
yes, I remember watching some of those.
They were amazing. And there was no huge lesson in Rainbow Bright. Like the Care Bears taught you empathy and everything. There wasn't something like that in it, but it was very artistic in the fact that you have to have color to have joy in life, and I just really related to that a lot.
Right.
But no, it was one of those shows that's just so much fun. And even watching it now, it actually translates a lot better than I thought it was going to. But it is a lot of fun. And, you can't, when you're a little girl, you can't help but love a colorful girl who loves rainbows.
Right.
Those are all the different colors of the rainbow.
Right.
Tries to save rainbows for the world while she rides a magical horse that can walk on the rainbows. You've got You got all the little girls there. You're just like
exactly. Well, then it may be teaching us lessons about different colors for people, or that's okay because color doesn't matter. It's I'm with you. So I remember watching that. Well, I remember coming into the room with my sisters watching it. I can't say I really sat down and watched it.
The are amazing. I can't remember their names, and if anybody can remember their names, put it in the comments. But guys,
Mandy, are you watching Mandy?
Like Mandy for me. Mandy's like our research assistant. She just researches all of our stuff for us.
We're gonna give her a job if she's not careful.
Oh my gosh, I would love to be able to do this for a living.
Me too. We need to monetize this and make it.
Somebody pay us. This would be so fun. If I ever win the lottery or something, Professor.
Right, exactly. I'm saying the same thing. In fact, I think the lottery was way up. I don't know if it still is. I need to check and, drop a dime on a ticket or something.
Right, me too. Maybe we would win something.
Right. Well, win something, be able to pay for stuff. I don't know. So,
have fun.
Right. So I'm going to go with my next one, and it wasn't my initial introduction to anime. But it was my 80s anime fix. What got me going We're talking about the Mighty Cats of Voltron.
Voltron was amazing. I was hoping this was on your list.
Yeah. This is such a fun show. And now here's a remake that actually did well. I don't know if you've seen the remake on. I actually thought that was really well done. Very comparable with the initial one, and it brought in a little more of an anime style at points, but not overly.
It was a like now when you watch it now, it doesn't overtly say anime.
Right.
Compared to what we know it now as anime.
Right.
But the new one stayed very true.
It did.
To the original but updating it to a point that I wasn't upset with it.
Right. I agree with that completely. No, it's a balance thing. It really is, right? You got to have compelling characters. You can't overdraw it. And there were points where they would get excited to get the big eyes, and I'd be like, okay. But those are few and far between, and I got to where I really loved the show. I just ignored it because I'm like, okay, this is really good too. But yeah, Voltron was a lot of fun. Loved the original Voltron cartoon. So that it was just kind of a cool idea. It was the combining of the cats to make the giant robot before it was done on
Power Rangers.
And of course, all those shows originated back in Japan anyway. With all that was happening long before. But
I think it's like they all have roots in. Like the first anime I ever watched was Sailor Moon.
Yeah.
Well, it's not, but I can. Okay, so I remember watching an anime when I was very young, and I never can remember the name of it. And I've searched for it, and even searched for it based on like what I remember. And I can't find any information about it, but I know it exists. So, but the one that I know that I can find is Sailor Moon was my first anime.
Mine was Battle of the Planets.
I mean, my brother watched Speed Racer, which is like considered when he was younger, and he was really into Speed Racer. So
Speed Racer is cool. I didn't actually watch Speed Racer until college. Somebody introduced it to me. I'm like, what is this? I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Okay, I'm with you. But that for me, that was my kind of gateway in. Actually, opened me up to watching some shows very similar to that. Later on, I'm like, oh, that's kind of like Voltron. I like the anime style. I like that. So yeah. Anyway, so Voltron, the combining the cat. Loved when the princess took over the cat. I mean, I always thought that was a really cool point that she's like, I can do this just as good as you guys can do.
Right.
And I'm like, awesome, good for you, girl. You go. So anyway, so Voltron. So I think we're down to just one more on your list.
Okay.
And it crosses over with mine. So this is a crossover one. So we can both talk about this because this was one that was also on after school. Also, little Transformers.
Oh no, I have one more that you haven't talked about.
Uh-oh, what am I missing?
Gummy bears?
You know what? I am missing gummy bears.
That's okay.
Dang it.
Talk about Transformers.
Yeah, let's talk about Transformers and I'll pull up gummy bears. Okay.
So, Bumblebee. That's all I gotta say.
A lot of people have the Bumblebee love, and I understand that. Bumblebee's a cool character. He's very much relates to people.
Right. I loved Bumblebee because one, he was the shy one. He didn't talk. Like the others talk.
Right.
Actually talk. And so what I loved about it is you have to understand Bumblebee through his emotions and through his like body language, which is really hard to do for a vehicle, but yet they've translated it very well.
Right.
On cartoon. Now this is of course when Bumblebee was still like the Beetle.
Right. As he should be.
Right. And not the Camaro.
Not the Camaro, right.
Although I do think he looks cool as the Camaro.
Right.
But in my heart, Bumblebee will always be the bug, the VW bug, because that goes to his name. And if anybody knows me, they know that I love Transformers. I have a Bumblebee tattoo on my thigh that's this big. And it's from the movie that came out, but it's like a chibi style, so it's like a little bit cuter style with the bigger eyes and stuff. But it's based on the movie that came out where he is the bug.
Right.
Which I was so happy for.
That was actually the best Transformers movie out there. As far as live action. That was by and far the best one. And,
but I have loved Transformers. I was... we weren't allowed, we didn't get like boy toys
right
up, but my cousins, like I said, lived up the road from me, and they had toys that they came down and we played. One of my cousins is 2 years older than me, and the other one is 3 years older than me, so not too much older, so they were still into it. And Transformers was one of those shows that I liked when I was younger, but because they were a little older, they liked it too. And
right.
So, but transforming those little cars into like robots and
I had a friend that had Optimus Prime.
Yeah.
And because he unfortunately his father died when he was young, and he was getting a Social Security check, so he would get a monthly thing, and so he would have extra money, and so but I always thought that was the coolest thing. I'm like, dude, that's awesome, because that was expensive.
Yeah.
But Transformers were awesome. My favorite were the Dinobots. I just thought the Dinobots were so much fun.
I love that they extended the universe to all those, like the Dinobots and everything. But yeah, the Transformers, and again, a Japanese show, a Japanese concept, a Japanese toy that really took off in the United States, because it was all about a 2-in-1. They weren't called Transformers over in Japan, but when they brought them over here, they transformed, so it made more sense.
Right.
It was just, and this is one of those cartoons that was driven by the toy.
Right.
It came out first.
Right.
Not here.
The toys came out, and then they quickly started the Marvel comic book. Honestly, I got the first 4 issues. Because it was actually what sold me was Spider-Man was on the cover of the first one. So I'm like, oh, Spider-Man, well, what is this? And it was a 4-issue miniseries. And then at the end of the 4th issue, it became a 5-issue miniseries. And then it became an 8-issue miniseries. And then it had 86 issues. And it on the last issue, and I got the last issue also, and I bought them, so I didn't buy them all, but I bought them here and there. But the last issue I picked up, and it cracked me up, because it said issue 86 of 4-part miniseries. I laughed and laughed. I'm like, oh, that's great, because they kept expanding it because it was so popular that they moved it from a miniseries to a regular series without really telling you they were going to do that. And so Transformers were awesome. I loved Optimus Prime just because he was
the cool guy.
He was the cool guy. You could respect him. Megatron was awesome because he was just so bad. Starscream was such an idiot, but you kind of liked him anyway because he's always trying to take power. So just love the Transformers, and so a lot of the side characters are really cool. I mean, because they all had their own personalities for their own cars. So yeah, Transformers.
You can't go wrong with Transformers.
I agree. So Mandy wanted to know what we were asking for, what we wanted to research. I don't even remember.
The Rainbow Bright.
The villains.
What were their names?
Of the original Rainbow Bright villains.
The ones that wanted to take there was the
suck the color.
One they wanted to suck all the color out. I can't remember
their name. Oh yeah. Thanks, Mandy.
How many more on your list?
I've got a couple more here. So we'll do this one, and then we'll do then we'll do your last one, because somehow I don't have gummy bears. That was weird. Okay. I didn't have gummy bears on your list. That was weird, but I knew you wanted gummy bears, so I guess I may have just copied it wrong. I probably just copied it from where I was copying it from. No, no big deal. Anyway, so
I might not have put it on there, but I swear I did.
oh, I think it was me. All right, so this next one was definitely a boy cartoon. It came off the craze of the sword and sorcery time. It had a fire sword that was kind of like a lightsaber. It had a barbarian. It had this sidekick that kind of looked like Chewbacca. It had a sorceress. And it had the coolest villains ever. And to me, this is a crying shame that this has not been made into a live action movie or at least a reboot if you kept to it, because it had the best. It didn't always have the best stories, but it had some of the best world building of a cartoon at the time.
Right.
And I'm talking about Thundar the Barbarian.
Yeah.
Loved this show. I think it only went one season.
Yeah, and one season and done.
And I think I read the history on this, and it wasn't canceled because it wasn't popular, because it was very popular. I think it was just so expensive to make that they ended up canceling it because it was too expensive to continue. But the world building in this, because it's set post-apocalyptic on Earth, but after a comet goes flying by and messes up the moon, destroys the tides, basically destroys all of humanity except for a small smidgen, and then you've got people, there are mutants that rise up and wizards, and it's just a cool thing. I just love it. So
right. I agree. It was a one season and done, and yeah, what I researched before on it is that it was too expensive, and the studio that was making it wasn't a studio that had the budget to do this.
Right.
It was one of those things where their idea outweighed their bottom line, and
they couldn't reconcile it. Yeah, which is too bad, because that was such a cool show. Again, it just, everything I loved. You got your Star Wars part, you got your Conan part, you've got Road Warrior aspects to it. It kind of threw all these things together, but it built its own world. It didn't rely on what was there. So somebody should take and run with this concept, because that would be, you could do a live action movie and do it well. That would be amazing. So
yeah.
All right, so you're one that I left off, and I don't know how I did this because we talked about it earlier, was gummy bears. I don't know.
Grammy is the only one they didn't make into a pop, and I don't understand.
That's weird.
But yeah, I loved gummy bears. The idea that there's these bears that are magical because they have the gummy berries that they make into gummy berry juice, and then they can hop around everywhere, so they can hop really high. But they are just protecting the forest, and they team up with the princess and all of that, because
right.
But it was just a cute story, and it has nothing to do with gummy bears.
Right.
Is the thing. But their theme song was probably one of the most catchy theme songs.
It is a catchy theme song, yes.
It was just one of those that when you heard it, you were like, da, 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 da. Yeah. I loved it.
Well, it's funny because it wasn't about the candy snack, but that association, because really that candy snack was there, super popular, gummy bears, and then later gummy worms, and all that was huge in the 80s. And so you make a cartoon
called Gummy Bears.
Gummy Bears, and somewhat associated, but not really about the candy. But still.
It literally, it was like Care Bears meet the Smurfs.
Right.
But they have magical berries that they can make into juice that makes them jump high. And they beat ogres up all the time.
Right. So they were juicing back then.
Juicing. Gummy berry juice.
So, can you guess what my last one is on my list?
No.
No? Okay. I thought
I thought it
maybe
would be Spider-Man and his Amazing Friends, but you already put that one up.
I did. So, and I love that one, but this one was my pinnacle one that I can say is my favorite cartoon of all time.
Okay.
And I believe it also only ran for a season, and it left us on a huge cliffhanger and put in quite a cast of characters, voiced by some of the best kid actors out there at the time, including a couple of kids from Eight Enough was in this. I'm talking about Dungeons and Dragons.
See, this is one of those that I didn't get to watch like when it was on, but I love the idea of it, and I have only watched a couple episodes since. So
see, we gotta get you.
I don't know if it's streaming anywhere.
I don't know. I've got them on DVD or Blu-ray or something. So yeah, I've got it.
I have a Blu-ray player and a DVD player.
I tried to get my son to sit down and watch it with me, and yeah, that was a no-go. Of course, anything I say, hey, this was something that was cool when I was a kid, and they're like, I'm out.
That's why
I'm
you
out.
should not start. You should be.
Yeah, and that's what I've kind of learned. I've kind of learned if I just turn it on where he can walk by, he might come in and get interested, but otherwise, forget it. If I try to tell him it's cool, forget about it. So, but yeah, Dungeons and Dragons, because you had all these different characters were given certain powers. They were kids that were whisked away during an amusement park ride gone bad, and they're trying to find their way home. So it really is very much a story of Oz, of the Wizard of Oz. And you've got this character that pops up, kind of helping guide him along the way. But then you come to find out in the very last episode, the main bad guy is the son of the Dungeon Master.
And then you hear nothing else.
And, they're coming to this conflict where they're trying to resolve it. You're like, oh my gosh. And then it leaves us on this cliffhanger. Does the Dungeon Master die? Does the bad guy convert over?
What am I hearing?
That is actually my son showering, I think. I meant to tell him not to shower until I was done. So.
Oh, well, I mean, we've been at it for an hour and 45 minutes, so he's really like, Dad, I gotta get a shower. Yeah,
probably his mother told him to get the shower. Here's what Media say. She's got D&D on DVD. The kids love it. I hate Uni's voice. Yeah, I'm with you. But I love this show. This show is so much fun. The intelligence of the way it was written. The bad guys are really cool. I mean, you got a dragon with multiple heads, TMX running around. You're like, oh man, this is so cool. I find this show really cool. I remember when it came on, I went, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. And again, it's gone. It went too soon. So.
Oh, Pastor, this has been fun.
Yeah, I had a great time doing this. Love talking cartoons, nostalgia.
I'm all about the nostalgia, you know that.
Yeah, I do. I get it.
Well, I have to get off here.
Yep, me too.
A couple more stories to write.
Working girl.
Morning. But before we leave, we always like to show our friends some love. So, I don't know if you've got the banner made for them yet, but we have the OzPod gals. They had their live like right before we did at 6 to almost 7.
And I will get this updated, but yeah.
And they just did it on Facebook. I don't think they have gotten any streaming sites or anything done yet or any of that, but you go check them out. I don't know if it'll be every Thursday, but it's OzPod on Facebook, and go give them a like and tell them we sent you, and they're amazing. They have 4 up. They had 3 during OzCon, and then they have 1 from today. And
you can find links out there. I think we've got some links out there on that, so check them out most definitely because they're really great. Their little ear thing today that they were doing is really cool. I've seen that before, but that was a lot of fun. So.
Yeah, they were doing and I guess they want me to do that when I see them next. So there's that.
That would be an interesting show, yeah.
It would be like, how can we get AJ to react with just your ears? But go over to check out our friends, the Nerd Informants, on Facebook and YouTube. It's Josh and Tim, and they bring you all kinds of things. Now that movies are starting to come out on a regular, you're going to see more reviews, and that tends to be what they do. But they also play video games and are on Twitch and everything. Be sure to go give them a like and subscribe to their YouTube. They also have a group called Nerd Informants Beyond, and it's for anybody who has like any nerdy things that they want to share that they can't share there. They can share on their other group. But they're just amazing guys. And then we have Keith and Gary over Pop Culture Minefield, and that's on YouTube. Keith has his own show as well. What's it called? Can't remember the name of it.
Something with Keith.
No, my mind just went. Whoop.
Yeah, sorry, Keith. We're blowing it here, buddy. We'll get a banner made for that too.
We have Keith and Gary, and they bring us all kinds of information, and they get the best scoops out there and some really cool interviews. They are not as kid friendly. I would say PG-13 or up. And so, but for us, very entertaining, and should totally check them out. And then we have the Scallywag himself over at Scallywag Productions on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Now he is taking a hiatus from doing filming for health issues right at the moment, but we're hoping that those can get taken care of in the next couple. Mandy just, I love this. Mandy just texted me or messaged me, and Murky and Lurky.
There you go.
She messaged all of them, but Murky and Lurky are the ones I was thinking about. Thank you so much, Mandy. We love you.
Thank you, Mandy.
And then be sure to check us out over at GeekyKOOL.com. We have our own website. You can find all kinds of things there. As Spoo says, it's like your one-stop shop for all things nerdy. We have contributors for all kinds of things, and if you want to be a contributor, to let one of us know, we can help set that up. We are also on YouTube and Facebook. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and like button. And we will be on, we do this and it goes to YouTube, but it also goes to our Facebook page. So if you're watching us, you know where to find us.
Most definitely.
So go and hit like and then invite your nerdy friends to like us too, because you never know what's going to be on this show.
And remember, for all of our friends and us also, those thumbs ups, those likes, those subscribes on YouTube, that all helps us get more exposure to more people. So if you're liking what you're seeing, do that for us. Hit those. We're not monetized at this point, so we're not wanting you to do that for money reasons, but to kind of get us out there so other people can enjoy the same thing you are. If you're not liking us, then just go away.
Right.
Just stick around. We'll show you something you like, we promise.
And it lets us know that you're enjoying what we're doing, and that's really what we're about, is we're about bringing a geeky, nerdy world fandoms together and expanding that. And that's why we always throw these shout outs to all our friends. If you have a YouTube or a geeky thing that you're doing and you would like us to throw out that or want to come on and promote, well, please let us know. We would love that.
We certainly would. All right, well, that's all we've got for today. We've kind of ran almost 2 hours, which, shocker, right? We've gone over what we hoped. But anyway, thank you all for watching. For those of you that watch it later, those of you that watched us live, thank you so much. Have a great day. Stay geeky out there until next time. And we should be back, I think, either Tuesday or Thursday next week, depending on what's going on.
Next week, I don't think I have anything on Tuesday. Right now, guys, the reason is I have a job. I do news reporting for a newspaper, and so sometimes my Tuesdays and my Thursdays get booked. So
yeah,
I don't
happens.
have them, but I think it's going to be Tuesday. I don't think I have anything for you.
Sounds great. We'll look forward to episode 49 next week. So, all right. Yeah, I know. The big 5-0 coming up. See you guys later. Stay geeky.